Hey, we're back. Welcome to Selling a House in Probate in California. I'm Brendan Mohr, and
I'm Bill Heyman.
we're the probate pros here in California, and we want to expand a little on a video we made previously, just why probate sales are different. You ready for it? Okay, here we go.
Let's go.
Big ways that a probate sale is different is that the court is looking over your shoulder during the probate process. It's a court monitored process. So they want to make sure that the home is being sold in the best interest of the beneficiaries of the estate. One thing that we often see is that perhaps some investors or just somebody trying to get a really good deal on real estate is investigating homes that are going through the probate process just through court filings, and they'll actually reach out and contact possibly the court-appointed administrator or some of the heirs and try to lowball them. And that's just something to really, really look out for. They may even use some language that'll maybe scare a potential seller into selling to them, and that's just almost never a good idea.
Yeah, a lot of people when they're going through a probate sale and probate, what they have this preconceived notion that when they sell a home through probate, it's got to be sold at this highly discounted rate, and that's not true. The court, as Brendan was saying, the court wants you to act in the best interest of the heirs and the beneficiaries. So the court is expecting that property to be put on the MLS and receive as much exposure to the overall market as possible. So what I tell a lot of families that I'm working with in probate and a probate real estate sale is that, hey, we're going to put it on the market and we're going to get the highest price possible because A, that's what the court wants, and B, that's the best thing for you and the family and the heirs and the beneficiaries. Now, a lot of times I've seen this where friends, neighbors, as well as investors, but friends and neighbors will know that someone passed away and they'll think, hey, I'm going to get a really good price. They'll come into the son or daughter who's the administrator, and the son or daughter will think, well, yeah, this will be a real easy sale. I'll just sell it to the friend or neighbor or even a family member at a below market price. Got to be real careful about that, because if the court becomes aware of that, whoever the administrator of the estate is could be possibly putting themselves in some real legal predicaments, because the court or any one of the heirs or beneficiaries that may not be real happy with you selling it at a low price because that's affecting their inheritance, they could literally hire an attorney and come after you later. So it's really never a good idea to sell a probate home below market price. You want to get market price because it's in the best interest of everybody.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just in regular real estate sales, it's practically never a good idea to not be in the MLS. When you're in the MLS, the listing is then syndicated to Zillow, Realtor.com, all the big real estate websites. So it's going to get maximum exposure. So anybody looking for a house will then see it. What you're trying to do is you're trying to get competing offers. You're trying to get the best terms for the estate. And that's the best way to do it. You know, and another thing that I see sometimes in this is that it's a family going through this issue of an asset, and there tends to be a belief, maybe among the administrator or others, that the other family members were all really close. We all love each other, perhaps. But once there's money involved, sometimes they end up not making the best decisions or wanting. That's when the greed comes out. So it's something to really, really look out for, that there's a better process or a correct process in order to sell real estate in probate. And that is really to put on the MLS, and a good real estate agent, a good realtor who's a probate specialist is going to know that and know how to do it properly and know how to get the best overall terms and sales price.
Another reason to consider, or I should say, another reason where probate home sales are different than regular sales. This kind of may seem like a minor issue, but it really is a major issue. And that's the topic of homeowners insurance when you've got a probate home that you're trying to sell. It's really, really important that homeowners insurance be maintained on a probate home while it's going through probate and while it's on the market to be sold. And we have a couple reasons why. that
Oh,
is. And Brendan, maybe you want to touch on a couple?
oh, absolutely. Any damage could happen to the home while it's sitting there, and the probate process, just from the petition to even have the court appointment for the administrator, the executor, that can take some time. The home is just sitting there. You can't actually sell the home until after that appointment's been made. And there's all sorts of damage that can happen to the house. And now this asset that needs to be divided up between heirs has some serious damage to it. And the homeowner's insurance, if they're no longer in the picture, they'll deny that claim most likely.
Yeah, and another couple of issues with the homeowner's insurance is that most insurance companies that may have been providing the homeowner's insurance for that person before they passed away, well, once they passed away, most homeowners insurance companies will not or do not want to continue to insure a home when it's owned by a deceased person. They usually will cancel the insurance once they find out that the person has passed away. Now, you can get insurance for a probate home that is still in the name of a deceased individual, but it is a special kind of insurance, and it generally is more expensive than your ordinary homeowner's insurance. So you really want to be sure that you take care of the home insurance issue, because if you just continue as a family member, if you just continue to pay the homeowner's insurance, leaving the deceased person's name on title, not telling the insurance company that they passed away, if there's a claim against the homeowner's insurance, it's likely that the insurance company either will not pay, very limited pay, or just may flat out say take a hike. It's really, really important that you deal with the homeowner's insurance issue. One other thing that I see in dealing with probate is I will see a lot of times where, maybe the families are a little bit pressed for money, and they just say, oh, well, the home's in probate, let's just let the insurance go. And they let the insurance lapse. Now, that is a real problem, because if there's a claim against that house while it's in probate and there's a lawsuit, they're going to sue the estate. And any money that's coming to all the heirs, that money is in jeopardy through a lawsuit because there was no insurance or insurance had lapsed on the house. It's really critical to deal with the homeowner's insurance situation on a probate home.
Would you say the bottom line is, when you're going through the probate process, contact the homeowner's insurance company, let them know what's going on,
Yes,
and then continue to make those payments?
absolutely. And when you contact the homeowner's insurance company, they may say one of two things. They may say, we can no longer insure the house, and they may end up canceling. Or they may say, okay, look, we've got this special kind of insurance for just this situation. Here's what the premiums are. And obviously, you can either pay the premiums through that insurance company, or you can go look somewhere else if you want to try to save a little. But very critical that you deal with this issue. Very critical.
Great point. Another thing that we see a lot, and what makes probate sales different, is a lot of times the utilities and the services end up getting turned off for non-payment. The family members or people handling the estate decide they're not going to pay that any longer, and that can be a big problem.
Or sometimes they just say, well, let's just turn off the utilities since nobody's living there and it's going through probate.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And then
Seen that.
there could be things that happen to the home, such as damage due to inclement weather. Perhaps you're living in an area where pipes freeze, or something to that effect. But then when it comes to selling the house, you really need to have all the utilities on. You need to have the water on. If there's gas to the home, you need to have gas on, the electricity on when you're selling the home. A buyer needs to be assured that the home is operational. Essentially, they need to be able to know that the light switches work, know that the oven works, know that the furnace works. Even for lending, the appraiser, when the appraiser comes out, they're going to turn on the lights if the lights aren't on. If the furnace doesn't work, most likely they're not going to be able to lend on the property. So all those services really do need to be on.
Yeah, especially if you've got a buyer that has an FHA or VA loan. If you've turned off all the utilities, it's not going through until you get all those utilities on and they can pass inspection and make sure that everything's working like it should.
Another one is the garbage collection. They'll continue to collect the garbage for a while, but then there'll be a lien on the property. They'll tack on some fines. So when you sell the property, there will be a lien on title, and you end up paying more in the end because of because of that non-payment.
Yep, absolutely. And the other issue, which kind of ties back to the insurance a little bit that we just discussed, that has to do with turning off utilities. And I've seen this happen. Sometimes you'll have a vacant probate home, and you will get squatters that will move into that vacant home. Now, number one, if you have all the utilities turned off, the squatters are still going to try to occupy it. And I've seen this where the squatters do something in the house where they get hurt, and there's no insurance, no utilities, and they end up trying to sue the estate, even though they're squatters, because they were in that house and they were hurt because there were no utilities. It happens. So you really want to make sure those utilities stay on. Services and utilities stay on.
Oh yeah, we didn't even really mention it, but if you're not maintaining the yard, that actually will attract squatters.
Yes.
So that's another thing you want to be looking out for. And I understand a lot of people going through probate aren't local. We often work with people who are well out of state. Yeah. We're on the West Coast. We often work with people who are on the East Coast who will never ever visit this property. But whoever you're working with as a realtor, they should be able to help you out with letting you know maybe who the utility companies are, letting you know who a good landscaper is to come out and just do those maintenance activities. But yeah, you wanna make sure there's no unwanted.
Yeah, don't turn off the utilities. Don't stop all the services. That's a big mistake.
Absolutely.
So that kind of brings us to, I think, our final point for today's video, and that is the actual issue of handling unwanted tenants or squatters in a probate home, because it does happen. It does happen, and this is different in a probate sale versus a regular sale in a number of ways. But one thing that I've run into with families quite a bit is you'll have a situation where someone passed away, they left a will, and they nominated an executor, maybe a family member, to be executor. And the person thinks that because they're named executor in the will, they already have all this power to take care of the house, take care of any legal issues that may come up. And that's not true. In order to be able to handle issues for the house or anything else that has to do with the estate, you can't just be named in the will as the executor. You have to be appointed officially by the court through the probate process. Because if you don't have that, you don't have any power to do anything, regardless of what the will says. You really don't. Like I said, just being named as the executor in the will, it's not enough. You have to have that legal authority appointment from the court in order to take care of things such as unwanted tenants, squatters in the house, because no one has the power to file for an eviction unless they've been appointed by the court to handle that type of a situation.
Mm-hmm. And we've seen it also in probate sales where an unwanted tenant, perhaps even a family member who's been allowed to stay in the property for free, refuses to leave. A lot of times, maybe you're staying in the property for free, and maybe the executor administrator is as well. And typically I find the executor administrator to be very responsible, but you do want to watch out for when you're allowing people to stay in the property. They may leave items behind. It's going to be harder to sell it if it's a tenant occupied property. And if whoever is living in the property, if they're not the seller, they're technically a tenant. And that tends to scare away buyers.
Yeah. Yes, it does. It's much harder, as Brendan said, it's much harder to sell a property with a tenant in it, especially one that's not paying rent and there's no rental agreement, which is often the case in the probate situations. And it's not impossible to sell a home like that, but you're much less likely to be able to sell. And you probably will have to sell at some sort of a discount because of that. If you're going to sell a probate home to someone who is going to buy it, knowing that they're going to have to deal with an eviction to get that unwanted tenant, or if there were squatters in there, out. It can be a real problem. I'd like to, if I may, just give an example of a real life situation that I had on a probate sale.
Yes.
This was a home in Sacramento, California, and it was in a nicer area of Sacramento. The home was a little bit dated. It needed some work, but it was in a pretty expensive area. So the home was vacant. The administrator of the estate and the family lived out of state, and I was working with them. And we listed the home for sale. And I would check on the home about every 7 to 10 days. I would just drive by, just as a check, just to make sure everything was okay. So one one time when I drove by to check, I noticed there was a car in the driveway. I thought, okay. So I walked up to the house and I started to put my key in the door, and my key didn't work. It would not unlock the door. I knocked on the door. A woman answered the door and said, "Hi, can I help you?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." I said, "I was just looking to talk to the owners of the house." And she said, "Oh, well, that's me." I said, "Oh, it is it?" And she said, "Oh, yes. Yeah, I live here. I own the home." Turns out she and a couple of her kids had moved into the house as squatters. And the way they had done this is, apparently they do this quite often. They look at the public records, because you can do that at different probate cases. They look for people who are out of state, and there's a house, and they figure that the house might be vacant. This one was. They go there and think, hey, we're going to move in because we're going to at least get, maybe 4, 5, 6 months, 12 months free rent, free place to stay. And that's what happened. And we had to go through an eviction process, the administrator of the estate did, to get these people out. Now, it was a little bit easier to do it because I had discovered these people, 4, 5, 6 days after they had moved in. It's not like they had been there for months. But if you don't have a conscientious probate realtor looking after your house, maybe they don't go by ever, and months go by, and these people move in and they're squatters. Well, now they're real tenants, and you will likely have a very difficult eviction process to get them out.
Absolutely.
That's just an example of a true life, real situation.
Yeah, that really just goes into if you're hiring a real estate agent who is very experienced in probate. And we'll go over, there's a video we have coming up where we'll talk about questions to interview a probate real estate agent. So that they're actually very knowledgeable in the process.
Yeah, that's very important. And we will have an upcoming video on that. So I think that's about it for this video. I want to thank you all for watching. And as always, we'd like you to always check out our YouTube video channel, How to Sell a Probate House in California. If you like our videos, please like them and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as Brendan has said in the past, any questions you have, please feel free to contact either one of us, and we'd be happy to answer them or try to help you in any way we can.
We love your questions, so please keep them coming. Thank you so much for watching.